condition, ensuring areas with greater need receive more assistance. Your government is caring for you.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Young Jamaicans up to 35, your government will reserve up to 10% of NHT housing solutions over the next 5 years, just for you with 100% financing up to 15 million Jamaican dollars. This is how we are empowering and breaking the cycle of poverty meaningfully. Your government is caring for you.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
How do bills become law in Jamaica? Laws are made to create order, to ensure our safety, and to protect our rights against abuses by other citizens, organizations, and even the government itself. A bill is a proposal for either a new law or for a change to an existing law. Jamaica's Parliament is responsible for making our laws, and that responsibility is shared between two houses. There are 21 parliamentarians appointed from both political parties to the upper house, also known as the Senate. And there are 63 members of parliament that we, the people, elect to the lower house, also known as the House of Representatives. To pass a law, there is a minimum of 6 stages required in each house. The process can begin in the upper house by a senator or in the lower house by your member of parliament. And their proposals for a new bill can certainly start with you, the citizen. Now, since the process often begins in the House of Representatives, let's start there. 1. The first stage begins with the introduction by the minister responsible for the bill, followed by the first reading of the bill by the clerk to the houses. This clerk is more like the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer for the Parliament. An announcement of the bill is published in the Gazette. This is a public newsletter that the government uses to inform the citizens of what the Parliament is doing on your behalf. 2. The second reading begins with a summary of the bill by the minister. The main reasons for the bill are discussed both by the government and opposition members to determine if Jamaicans would really be better off with the new law or changes to an existing law. A vote is taken by the House to determine if the bill will move to the committee stage. Sometimes before going to that stage, the minister responsible for the bill can recommend the use of a joint select committee. It's called joint as its members are taken from both the upper and lower house. To benefit from greater consultation, the committee is empowered to invite the public to share their views of the bill in writing or in person, and does so through radio, TV, and newspaper adverts. This joint select committee submits its recommendations to the House of Representatives. The House debates this report, and a vote is taken to determine if the bill should go on to the committee stage, where it is examined by a committee of the whole House. Yes, that's the name. And that's what it is, a committee of all the members of Parliament that carefully examines each clause and makes improvements to ensure the bill will achieve its objectives. As chairman, the Speaker of the House monitors the process to make sure the rules of the House are obeyed and the process moves along smoothly. 4. The committee of the whole House examines the bill clause by clause, then sends its recommendations for changes to the House of Representatives. This is called the report stage. 5. The bill then passes to the third reading to allow a final opportunity for MPs to make changes before it is sent to senators in the upper house. 6 to 10. In the upper house, the senators go through the same steps we just described. If any changes are made, the bill has to be returned to the House of Representatives for their discussion and approval. Now, if the bill had started in the upper house, it would also have to be returned to them for approval of any changes made by the lower house. 11. Throughout the entire process, the bill is being checked by the Legislative Council. That's the Parliament's lawyer. But before the last step, a copy is sent to the Attorney General of Jamaica for final review and certification. 12. If all is well, the bill is sent to receive the royal assent from the Governor General as the representative of the Queen, Elizabeth II. The bill is now an Act of Parliament. The Act is gazetted, and the rights of Jamaicans are further preserved and protected by a new law.
Heart and Estate Trust now offers a $100,000 grant to heart-trained individuals running businesses for over a year. They'll also assist with business planning, marketing, skill enhancement, and other support. Your government is building a caring economy for you.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
No more guarantors for student loan. Your government cares about your education, and we don't want you to ever have to worry about going to university. The Students' Loan Bureau has a loan for you so you can focus on your future.
It must stop. It have to stop. Gang violence is not the solution to our problem. It will only cause pain and suffering. Let's find non-violent ways to solve our conflict. Let's work together to create a safer and peaceful Jamaica. Let's all live good.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
We want a peaceful Jamaica. Yeah. We have to be our brother's keeper. Yeah. Jamaica live good, yeah. I make we enjoy life. What we feel safe at night. Jamaica live good. I better you and I. No say we future bright. Jamaica live good. Come together as one. I make the violence the world.
Cook it up and make we steam it. Fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Cook it up and make we roast it. Farm fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Grow smart at the best part. Food for thought so me have to eat smart. Easy catch, fully net. A tilapia so you don't know what's next. Cook it up and make we fry it. Fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Bring home the best in freshwater fish. High content of vitamin B3, protein and potassium. Tilapia, simple, healthy, delicious.
People always say government must be held accountable. But is whose job to keep government accountable? And what that really mean? Well, you see, when ministers and public officials have to provide answers for decisions made and can face consequences for those actions and decisions, that means they're being held accountable. Keeping government accountable is a key responsibility of our elected representatives, and the Parliament provides special tools or mechanisms just for this. As citizens, we need to understand how they work so we can play our part to ensure that the members of Parliament we elect are using the tools and doing their job well. Here are 4 of the primary tools you should understand and talk to your MP about. Tool number 1, Ministers' Statements. To effectively monitor the government, MPs need to stay informed. Every Tuesday when Parliament sits, different cabinet ministers are scheduled to give an update on decisions they're making on our behalf. These updates are called Statements by Ministers. They cover a wide range of national issues that other MPs, media, and citizens may have questions about and wish to examine further. That brings us to tool number 2. What you do when you want information? You ask questions, and that's why we have question time. Both opposition and government MPs can submit questions to the Prime Minister or Cabinet Ministers for details on, for example, how a contract was awarded or expenditure to purchase tablets for schools. So if you ever have a question for a government minister, try asking through your MP. After all, that's why they're your political representatives. They should represent your questions and concerns to the government. Tool number 3, Parliamentary Debates. When cabinet ministers present the government's proposals for new policies, laws, and programs, parliamentary debates allow both opposition and government MPs to air concerns, make suggestions, and endorse proposals. If you ever watch those debates, you know they can get a little fiery. But the debate is important as it informs decisions and continues until a vote is taken on the way forward. Then we have tool number 4, Parliamentary Committees. The general sittings of Parliament are not always sufficient for detailed examination of government's work, so oversight committees are formed using government and opposition members to do just that. Some committees like the PAC and the PAAC are in place for an entire parliamentary term. Their job is to monitor the use of public funds to find ways to increase value and efficiency while reducing waste and corruption. Cabinet and state ministers are not appointed to oversight committees since they are a part of the government. Some committees are formed when a need arises. For example, joint select committees are formed to review draft policies or legislation or to probe other matters of serious national importance. Members of these committees are both opposition and government MPs and senators, and these committees will usually invite citizens to share their opinions, concerns, and recommendations. So there you have it, 4 accountability tools of Parliament that are used to make sure government run right. Visit jampja.org to find contact information for your MP. Invite them to meet with the community so they can better represent your issues and concerns in Parliament and keep government accountable. Get involved and let's make Jamaica land we love, Jamaica land we own, and Jamaica land we run well. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Bank in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
Come July, your NHT home improvement loan will increase to $3.5 million for qualifying applicants. Your government is caring for you. Since 2016, 156,000 more Jamaicans are working. This is more than any other time in our history. Your government is caring for you. Apply to the Heart NSTA Trust. Learn a new skill and expand your horizons. Your government has made it completely free to you.
Can you imagine getting a marketable skill for free? Your government has made it possible for anyone wanting to learn a skill to get free training through the Heart NSTA Trust. Learn a new skill and expand your horizons.
Good things are happening in Jamaica. Our unemployment remains the lowest it has ever been, which means more Jamaicans are working and can provide for themselves and their families. Your government is building Jamaica.
I'm not allowed to speak for myself. They make all the decisions.
I'm not allowed to go anywhere by myself. They're afraid I'll escape.
See how my hand and face bruise up? Them beat me cause me say me tired.
I'm only 13, but they said if I work harder, they will allow me to go home.
Me no have no birth paper, no ID. Them take all of my documents, them.
Victims of human trafficking are all around us and they need our help. Forced labor is one of the many forms of human trafficking. If you see something, say something. Report suspected cases of human trafficking. Call the nearest police station, 119 or 888, protect.
We want a piece for Jamaica. Yo, what are you? Oh man, none of that. No, brother, no, man.
You see you ever play ref? Dirty game,
yeah,
no
but
play.
like a bad game. No, I said, place when you come from, brother, I want to live good, man. I want to live good, brethren. No shake hand, I want to play like a bad, brethren.
Really have to shake hand?
Yeah, man, and no badness, brethren. Just live good, man. Come together as one and make the violence done.
It's a universal principle of life. A fundamental human right. Everyone should have access to enough, nutritious, diverse, affordable, and safe foods. It starts with nature, a journey from our farms to our tables, where we come together to celebrate our cultural identities. World Food Day. Food is a right, every day, for everyone, everywhere.
Do you wish there were a way your community could get funding to improve a school, health center, sports program, and more? There is! It's the Constituency Development Fund. Here are a few things you probably didn't know about the CDF and how you can make it work better for you. The CDF policy promotes citizen participation in community development and the protection of taxpayers' funds. It outlines that MPs are to meet with citizens at least once every 2 years to agree on the projects needed. You know, it used to be once a year? We should really go back to that. Projects developed without community consultation are not to be approved by the bipartisan CDF Parliamentary Committee. There are 26 government agencies that implement projects, usually for a small fee. Funds are provided directly from the Office of the Prime Minister to the implementing agency, not through the Member of Parliament. The CDF unit monitors project costs and implementation, so if you have questions about how the CDF are run in your community, contact them. To ensure no one project or community gets all the funds, there are 6 project categories with spending limits for each. There must be no less than 5 and no more than 20 projects each year. To learn more, visit jampja.org to view your MP's CDF info and tell them how this fund has impacted you. If you don't see your MP's CDF reports, then put them under little pressure, man. Call, tweet, email. Ask them when they'll submit it and when is the next CDF meeting. Change is possible. It's already happening. What we need is you. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Bank in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
Jamaica's economy is in the best shape ever. Everybody a yard and abroad a talk about it. Your government is investing in our hospitals, parks, community clinics, roads, and water infrastructure.
The Live Good initiative is aimed at promoting healthy, respectful relationships at home, at school, and in our communities. Let's return to the days when members of our communities all participated in rearing our children with kindness, good manners, and discipline. Let's respect each other. Let's become our brother's keeper. Let's replace violence with understanding. Let's all strive to live good.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
Jamaica improve, heart free, wages increase, housing scheme a bill up, we have more opportunities, roads build, and the dollar stable. We are building Jamaica.
It's a universal principle of life, a fundamental human right. Everyone should have access to enough, nutritious, diverse, affordable, and safe foods. It starts with nature, a journey from our farms to our tables, where we come together to celebrate our cultural identities. World Food Day. Food is a right, every day, for everyone, everywhere.
Denise Williams here, inviting you to join us on Financially Focused, the ultimate destination for go-getters who are ready to take the step-by-step actions to master your finances and create a family legacy. Tune in, watch, take notes, and participate to discover the strategies of our expert guests who provide invaluable guidance and powerful coaching tools to supercharge your financial journey.
Tune in to Financially Focused, Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. only on PBCJ, the People's Station.
More of your money is now tax-free? Know that the income tax threshold has been increased. Your government is looking after you responsibly, so our economy can do even more for you.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Most Jamaicans will tell you corruption in politics is deep-rooted, and I just saw it set, and nothing can do about that. But actually, there is, and another 152 countries are doing it. It's called asset declaration, and it works best where citizens themselves understand it and help to ensure the law is enforced. Corruption happens when public officials abuse their power to benefit themselves, family, or associates. Jamaica's Integrity Commission Act was designed to prevent corruption, and here are 5 things you should know. 1. Under this law, every year, MPs and senators must report what they earn, own, and owe, and if they don't, they'll be sanctioned. 2. Their report must include the same kind of information for their wife or husband and children. 3. If they get a gift worth more than $100,000 from anyone who's not family, they must declare it. 4. A summary of the declarations of our Prime Minister and Opposition Leader must be published where the public can read it. 5. Parliamentarians can now be prosecuted by the Integrity Commission. They can be fined up to $2 million or serve up to 2 years in prison if they don't file their declaration or if they give false information, and $500,000 for not filing on time or ignoring requests for information. Unfortunately, our parliamentarians made changes that prevent the public from knowing when they've broken the law or when they're being investigated. We really need to change that. Visit jampja.org to find out more about the Act and to track if your MP is obeying this law. If they're not, JAMP's MP Tracker will help you write, tweet, or call your MP. Ask them, you submit your declaration yet? The Integrity Commission clear you? Let's help the Parliament stay honest. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Bank in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
Me, I go show them my way of justice.
I'm abused.
I need legal advice. I don't deserve this.
The truth of the matter is, justice there for all of we. The Ministry of Justice has trained more than 5,600 persons in restorative justice practices. More than 200,000 victims have been supported by the victim services. Legal aid has reached thousands island-wide. Make we talk it out, not fight it out. Call 888 Justice today.
Jamaicans, practice proper disposal of garbage, and if items can be reused, recycle them. We all have a part to play in protecting our environment from pollution. We are building Jamaica.
Cook it up and make we steam it. Fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Cook it up and make we roast it. Farm fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Grow smart at the best part. Food for thought so me have to eat smart. Easy catch, fully net. A tilapia so you don't know what's next. Cook it up and make we fry it. Fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Bring home the best in freshwater fish. High content of vitamin B3, protein and potassium. Tilapia, simple, healthy, delicious.
I saw you want to live. I walk and look over your shoulder. No sleep at night. I wonder if your family safe. Your mother, your brother, your sister, your youth them. And when you get catch, are you alone? But not there to help you. You have to talk for yourself a court. And then when you're gone behind the bars, them see them on their road and live them life and I enjoy life. Gang violence don't make no sense. Leave gang violence alone. Let's work together and make Jamaica a safer and peaceful country. Let's all live good.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
Tell me something. How much time you ever hear the government announce a project and wonder why they must spend millions on this and not on that? Well, if you think there's nothing you can do about how your money is spent, think again. Jamaica's budget is more than just numbers. It reveals our biggest problems and goals, our plans to fix them, and what to prioritize. We can even call it a promise book of what will be done to improve our lives. Now, let's talk about the 4 stages of the budget cycle so we can understand how it works and get involved. Stage 1, planning and review. The Ministry of Finance sends out a budget call to every ministry, which outlines the priorities and constraints to guide how those ministries prepare their budget. After ministries submit their drafts, the Finance Ministry reviews, compiles, and sends them to Cabinet for review and approval. Stage 2, Parliamentary debate and approval. The Finance Minister tables all budget documents in the House of Representatives. The Standing Finance Committee, which is all 63 MPs, sits to examine the budget documents, and each minister presents their budget and answers concerns the committee has. The committee's report is then tabled in the House, followed by the estimated expenditure, which is tabled as legislation called the Appropriations Bill. That's right, the budget of Jamaica is law. The budget debate formally opens. We have presentations from the Minister of Finance, the Prime Minister, Opposition Leader, and the Shadow Finance Minister. After their presentations, our MPs vote for or against approval.
Like all legislation, it goes to the Senate for their approval and then to the Governor General for his royal assent, no later than March 31st, end of the financial year. Stage 3, implementation. The new financial year begins and approved budgets are sent to ministries. Collecting taxes, borrowing loans, and receiving grants begin, and so does the spending. Stage 4, budget oversight. Now, this is where citizens don't need permission to get involved. Throughout the year, operations and spending are assessed by internal auditors and the Auditor General's department that makes sure public entities are compliant with laws and that their financial reports are accurate. All Auditor General reports are submitted to our Parliament's Public Accounts Committee for review and cross-examination of public officials. The Ministry of Finance, Integrity Commission, and MOCA also monitor government spending to guard against poor financial management and corruption. It is our job to review these reports, check the findings in the newspaper, and look up if breaches are fixed at jampja.org. If not, ask your MP what he or she has done to ensure public officials are held to account. No more 9-day wonders. So, did the government follow through on their spending and investment promises last year? What promises will next year's budget have? How will they affect you, and how can you ensure that you get what is promised? For access to the national budget, check out JAMP's easy digital version and contact info for your MP at jampja.org. Then link your MP and see what progress is being made throughout the entire budget cycle. Support JAMP. Let's do our job to make Jamaica land we love, Jamaica land we own, and Jamaica land we run well. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
Join us as we navigate this interwoven landscape, discovering how every portfolio and agency under the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation play a crucial role in national development, from housing to land. NWC, why I don't have any water in my tap, to infrastructure and investment, so the government is not giving away any assets.
No, Danny.
All right.
Not at all.
Let's unravel the threads of success as we explore the MEGJC matrix.
Me, I go show them my way of justice.
I'm abused.
I need legal advice. I don't deserve this.
The truth of the matter is, justice there for all of we. The Ministry of Justice has trained more than 5,600 persons in restorative justice practices. More than 200,000 victims have been supported by the victim services. Legal aid has reached thousands island-wide. Make we talk it out, not fight it out. Call 888 Justice today.
Every student attending Heart and STA Trust under the New Care Initiative will get $15,000 each month to help cover their travel expenses to the Heart School they're attending and get an extra $13,000 each week while they're training.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
No more guarantors for student loan. Your government cares about your education, and we don't want you to ever have to worry about going to university. The Students' Loan Bureau has a loan for you so you can focus on your future.
Your safety and security continue to be our priority. We are seeing a downward trend in major crimes, and we are investing $650 million in technology improvement for our police force to provide greater coverage across Jamaica by 2028.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Remember that big project the government announced them was going to from when? You ever catch yourself a wonder what happened to it? Stop wonder like an outsider and start move like the country belong to you. You have a right to publicly owned information, and the Access to Information Act gives you that power. I know you have enough questions about how government are run or not run, so let me show you how it works. Say mosquito spraying going on in your community, your children asthmatic and you want to know what chemicals are in it. Or what about that Auditor General report on a public official getting twice his salary with no proper approval? Is your taxes and you want to know if they paid it back? First, do some basic searching to see what is already on government websites. If you don't see what you're looking for, make a formal ATI request by completing the application form on the ATI site or sending a letter or email. And remember, you don't have to say why you need it. It is your right to know. Make sure you send your request to the right agency, and once they confirm receipt, they get 30 calendar days to provide the information, a maximum of 60 if extra time is needed. Yes, I know you want access to everything, but sensitive documents are protected from the public for up to 20 years. For example, documents that would expose a citizen's personal privacy, or those dealing with cabinet discussions, the Governor General's office, or information on the investigative activities of the security forces. Any public officer who tries to destroy or hide any official document can be sanctioned. And if you're having difficulties, the ATI unit will help. So, what if the chemicals in the mosquito spray are toxic? What if the agency did not even try to get back the money they paid out? Call or email your MP. Share the concern, because as your elected representative, they can represent your questions to the government ministers in the House. Remember, it is the job of parliamentarians to monitor and hold the government to account on your behalf. Is not every country give citizens this kind of power, you know? And at 20 years we have this law, and we barely use it. So access information and mind your business, Jamaica. Visit jampja.org today to see what information we access to make it easier for you to hold the government to account. Let's do our job to make Jamaica land we love, Jamaica land we own, and Jamaica land we run well. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
I can. You can. We can. Let's all take the pledge to end gang violence now. Report what you know. Call 811-311-119 or visit the nearest police station.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
We care about our minimum wage earners. That is why we increased the minimum from the previous increase of 13,000 to now 15,000. And as our economy continues to improve, you can look forward to even more increases. Your government is caring for you.
Heart and Estate Trust now offers a $100,000 grant to heart-trained individuals running businesses for over a year. They'll also assist with business planning, marketing, skill enhancement, and other support. Your government is building a caring economy for you.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
We want you to enjoy the beauty of our island home, and that includes your beaches. That is why we are upgrading at least 9 beaches and equipping them with restrooms and other amenities for your comfort. Jamaica's beaches are your beaches. Your government cares about your recreational environment.
Our pensioners are our society's backbone, and we want to make sure they are cared for. That is why the annual pension exemption and age relief exemption has been increased to $250,000 each. You have worked hard for your country, and we want you to have a little more peace of mind in retirement. Your government is caring for you.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Young Jamaicans up to 35, your government will reserve up to 10% of NHT housing solutions over the next 5 years, just for you, with 100% financing up to 15 million Jamaican dollars. This is how we are empowering and breaking the cycle of poverty meaningfully. Your government is caring for you.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
What if I told you that you own thousands of acres of land, more than 100 companies with over 100,000 employees and billions in the bank? Well, I have news for you. You do. Jamaica belongs to you, and you need expert protection to safeguard those assets for your future, your children, and your children's children. And you already have it. A key protector is our Auditor General, whose role is outlined by the biggest, baddest law in all the land, the Constitution. The Auditor General's main job is to examine the financial reports of all public entities to ensure that they are accurate and that public funds are used appropriately and effectively to deliver public goods and services without waste, theft, and mismanagement. Here's how it's done. A team of highly trained auditors reviews and verifies that the right amount of money is spent on only what's approved in the national budget and in accordance with the laws and policies that protect public resources. Now, the right amount of money can be spent on the right things and Jamaicans still no benefit. So the Auditor General assesses the outcome for programs and projects as well. Audit reports will also contain recommendations to improve the operations of the audited entity, and the findings are submitted to the Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, the PAC. Every year, an annual report is submitted by December 31. Both government and opposition MPs serve on the PAC, and they summon public entity managers to answer questions so that they and the public, the real owners, yes, you, can understand what went wrong and how to prevent a recurrence. What are some things that can and do go wrong? Cost and time overruns, missing financial reports, unreported losses, unauthorized spending, unsupported payments, unlawful contracting, undisclosed conflict of interest, and more. Though the AG identifies the abuse of laws and policies, the law does not empower that office to penalize or sanction, but it does empower the Financial Secretary in the Ministry of Finance. It is also the duty of other anti-corruption and law enforcement bodies to grab the button and investigate to ensure penalties are applied when appropriate. But the AG alone can't watch all. So when things don't look straight, the Minister of Finance, members of Parliament, Cabinet, public servants, and importantly, you must blow the whistle and the AG will look deeper. So this is where you come in, with 4 things you can do to strengthen those who are fighting to protect our future. Tune into PBCJ on Tuesdays for the PAC and mind your business, Jamaica. It's our belongings, but we have to move like we understand that. And next time you hear a news report about the AG, you just left it up to the media. Visit the AG's website at www.auditorgeneral.gov.jm and check out the findings yourself. Then, keep track of how government has fixed the issue or not at www.jampja.org's accountometer. And if you're not happy with what you see, it's your job to contact your employees. It's easy when you visit the MP tracker on jampja.org. This is how we can do our part to make Jamaica land we own, Jamaica land we love, and Jamaica land we run well. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter portal, funded by the European Union and UK Aid.
Heart Anesthesia Trust now offers a $100,000 grant to heart-trained individuals running businesses for over a year. They'll also assist with business planning, marketing, skill enhancement, and other support. Your government is building a caring economy for you.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
It must stop. It have to stop. Gang violence is not the solution to our problem. It will only cause pain and suffering. Let's find non-violent ways to solve our conflict. Let's work together to create a safer and peaceful Jamaica. Let's all live good.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
We want a peace for Jamaica. Yeah. We have to be our brother's keeper. Yeah. Jamaica live good, yeah. I make we enjoy life. What we feel safe at night. Jamaica live good. I better you and I. No say we future bright. Jamaica live good. Come together as one. I make the violence the one.
Cook it up and make we steam it. Fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Cook it up and make we roast it. Farm fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Grow smart at the best part. Food for thought so me have to eat smart. Easy catch, fully net. At tilapia, so you don't know what's next. Cook it up and make we fry it. Fresh, so me need it. Tilapia, a real fish. Bring home the best in freshwater fish. High content of vitamin B3, protein, and potassium. Tilapia, simple, healthy, delicious.
Come July, your NHT home improvement loan will increase to 3.5 million for qualifying applicants. Your government is caring for you. Since 2016, 156,000 more Jamaicans are working. This is more than any other time in our history. Your government is caring for you. Apply to the Heart NSTA Trust. Learn a new skill and expand your horizons. Your government has made it completely free to you.
What is the role of a backbencher in government? I'm glad you asked. They're members of parliament who are not appointed to cabinet. So they sit in the back of the legislature and they apply pressure. They examine what government legislates, participate in parliament debates, raise issues and advocate and question chamber when things don't look straight. Backbenchers represent the constituents in parliament. Backbenchers oversee the interests of citizens, you and me. But how can they be agents of government accountability after them no hold no portfolio? And them and a minister? No. So then how can they facilitate government transparency? And the next thing, them and a front bencher. So how them affect me? You see, a lot of work is in committees. So these portfolio-free MPs with less dire responsibilities are more accessible to you and me. So they help with policy, but it helps if we engage them, you see. So they're not just in the back benches, but on the ground, in the trenches. Though in the back of parliament, we're at the front of their cause. So pause. Find your backbencher at jampja.org.
Can you imagine getting a marketable skill for free? Your government has made it possible for anyone wanting to learn a skill to get free training through the Heart NSTA Trust. Learn a new skill and expand your horizons.
Good things are happening in Jamaica. Our unemployment remains the lowest it has ever been, which means more Jamaicans are working and can provide for themselves and their families. Your government is building Jamaica.
I'm not allowed to speak for myself. They make all the decisions.
I'm not allowed to go anywhere by myself. They're afraid I'll escape.
See how my hand and face bruise up? Them beat me because I'm tired.
I'm only 13, but they said if I work harder, they will allow me to go home.
Me no have no birth paper, no ID. Them take all of my documents, them.
Victims of human trafficking are all around us and they need our help. Forced labor is one of the many forms of human trafficking. If you see something, say something. Report suspected cases of human trafficking. Call the nearest police station, 119 or 888, protect.
So who keeps our taxpayer money in check? Well, the PAC and PAAC help watch over the country's budget. And one might sound like it just have an extra A, but they're way different. Here's how. The PAAC and PAC are two committees that watch the money. The Public Accounts Committee reviews government projects after them close. They do a post-audit check to see what problems arose with the costs and call officials to explain decisions that cause budget mismanagement. And then they recommend corrective action. So the problem will happen from when, not happen again. But what about the money we are spending right now? The PAAC. That's how Public Administration and Appropriations Committee pretty much means your money will protect as it happen, we check. While projects go on, things are accurate. As government spend the nation's budget, PAAC reviews it. They examine proposals and summon officials to find problems before them don't use it. So the PAC and PAAC are two parliamentary committees that watch over the country's wallet to protect the budget and keep it in check. And you can get involved. Just visit jampja.org.
For Jamaica. Yeah. Yo, what are you? Oh man, none of that.
see you ever play ref? Dirty game,
Yeah,
no
but
play.
I look a ball game. No, I said, place when you come from, brother, I want to live good, man. I want to live good, Bridging. So shake hand, I can play a little ball, Bridging.
Really have to shake hand?
Yeah, man, and no badness, Bridging. Just live good, man. Come together as one and make the violence done.
Jamaica's economy is in the best shape ever. Everybody abroad and abroad are talk about it. Your government is investing in our hospitals, parks, community clinics, roads, and water infrastructure.
New facility, a brand new two-story building that will enhance their operational capabilities and provide a more conducive working environment in Stony Hill. Under the Hard Skills Training Program, the Rocky Valley Community Center that was renovated through TPDCO funding and my CDF will once again offer data entry processing classes for residents across the constituency through HART. On this occasion, HART will also offer an assessment program to certify those who have skills but are uncertified. This program will begin in a few weeks, so residents, I'm asking you to listen out for the town crier and enroll in this program. The Andrew Holness government implemented the Care and Lift program, allowing members of Parliament to recruit young people aged 18 to 29 to acquire skills over a year while receiving a weekly stipend and also traveling allowance totaling $70,000. I'm grateful for both programs through HART, focusing on our youths, moving them from a skill to a job. Students from St. Andrew West Rural will be represented in this program because this is how we move you from poverty to prosperity. Madam Speaker, through the zinc fence removal program, Lacey community can now boast that their community is being transformed. The only thing missing is a proper road surface, and I want you to know that this will be achieved in the coming months. There are many informal communities without proper walkway or road surfaces because of various reasons. Mr. Speaker, the Rose Hill community next door will benefit this year from a $2 million concrete road surface in the coming months, and this will be through my CDF. This will greatly benefit the members, especially the elderly and the children. Mr. Speaker, I will also embark on a Light Up Community project through the TPDCO Spruce Up program, where I will be installing solar lights to over 30 communities in St. Andrew West Rural. Many communities are in darkness, and the children and elderly, the disabled, they have to use their phones to get home some evenings or a flashlight. And this, Mr. Speaker, is the reason why for this Light Up Community project. This will be a $4 million project, and I want to thank the Minister Bartlett, for this annual allocation as we brighten communities and make them safer. Water. Mr. Speaker, water is life, and this government is breathing life into many communities that have been dying of thirst. Let me name a few communities that will be resurrected from the PMP's non-performance. In their stronghold in my constituency in Mount Zion, Brandon Hill, there's currently no pipelines to that community since 1988. The elderly have to walk long distance to a standpipe for water. And this government is currently upgrading the tank in Mount Prospect to a 50,000-gallon tank. A 1 kilometer of 4-inch new pipeline will be installed to Mount Zion so the people's thirst can be quenched. Mr. Speaker, we want to move all Jamaicans from poverty to prosperity, and Mount Zion in Brandon Hill, water will be coming to you. The NWC will install new pipelines also in the community of Trackgate in the Lawrence Tavern area. And also, we want to make sure that the persons in this community I'm urging the residents to become valued customers when the team visits in a few weeks. I wish to also thank the new man on the block, MP Matthew Samuda, the waterman, the man that helps to breathe life into communities, because there's a huge project coming to Red Hills. And this project is the ferry to Rock Pond pipeline installation project, and I know that this was approved by Cabinet. This project will see a vast improvement in the water supply for the Red Hills residents, and this is a $1.3 billion water project. I am also thankful to the government's water tank installation project. There are many residents who now have water catchment built by labor. We are moving this country from poverty to prosperity. Mr. Speaker, let me thank the Honorable Darrell Vaz and the Universal Service Fund for the Wi-Fi Community Project. And this was launched just a few weeks ago in the Brandon Hill Square. And 5 months ago, we launched another Wi-Fi in a community of Florence Hill. Connectivity is ever so important for rural communities like mine and for the children. Mr. Speaker, education is important, and I want to thank Minister Favour Williams for her dedication. I can proudly say, Madam, that a school that was old, the building was so old, it was breaking apart in Essex Hall, is now boasting a brand new block with minor finishing touches left, which is tiling. Madam, I'm asking for your intervention to make sure that this gets done as soon as possible. I also wish to thank you for the $3 million granted for tuition and my CDF allocation of $5.5 million, totaling $8.5 million was spent to assist 100 students for higher education grants of $60,000 to $100,000 for tertiary education. We also did back-to-school treats and also vouchers. And this is how we move you from poverty to prosperity. Mr. Speaker, healthcare. This government is focused on improving your health and healthcare facilities. 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm asking for the members' time to be increased by 10 minutes.
The request is on the floor. Those in favor? Aye. Those against, the ayes have it. You may continue.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Healthcare. This government is focused on improving your health and healthcare facilities. The Red Hills, Red Hills residents, brace yourself. You have endured a rundown health center, and that will change under this government. The process has started for an upgraded facility, and I want to thank Minister Tufton and is focused on primary health care. Lawrence Tavern residents and persons close to Lawrence Tavern, I want to say to you that the Lawrence Tavern Health Center is still on track, and we will build that in over a 2-year period. Mr. Speaker, I chose politics to change laws so communities can be safer and flourish. We want to make sure our children are safe to walk and play in their communities. I was able to transform an area where old cars were being dumped. It is now a beautiful park where children can play and feel safe in the area of Florence Hill, this community. Thanks to the allocation from Minister Bartlett through the TPDCO and also my CDF, the children now have a space for play and entertainment. But I want to urge the young men in the Florence Hill area to do the right thing and stay away from crime. This quiet place is becoming a nightmare for residents. And I know that the police will be relentless to make sure that the violence stops in this community. And I want to urge residents in the community and across West Rural to make sure you tell the police what you know. Farm roads. Mr. Speaker, farming is a lifestyle in West Rural, especially Brandon Hill and Lawrence Tavern. I wish to highlight the upgraded farm roads and ones to come this financial year. Pleasant Spring in Lawrence Tavern is now being upgraded, and later this year, actually, I just got word yesterday that the Mount Olive Farm Road should start soon, and the Lime Edge in the Brandon Hill area will also be rehabilitated this financial year. After burial, we all receive a $3 million allocation grant for farmers who were impacted, and I want to thank Minister Green. Mr. Speaker, Minister Purnell Charles and State Minister Dunn continues to look after the welfare of the people. My constituents have benefited from poverty intervention funds and burial housing assistance. A number of disabled citizens, elderly, and single parents are especially grateful for the annual poverty intervention allocation. St. Andrew West Rural residents have also benefited from the government's policy of an assigned social worker for each MP. I am able to make interventions, and let me give you an example. There was a lady who was born without legs. She couldn't get on the program, and I was able to reach out to the social worker to visit this household. Mr. Speaker, she called me a few months ago to say that she was now placed on the PATH program. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank the Honorable Nigel Clark for the pension program for 75 and older. There are a number of my constituents who benefited from this program. This is a government that truly cares for the most vulnerable. And I wish to take this time to thank Minister Clark for the new compensation restructuring program, taking us from over 300 salary scales to 16 salary scales. The PMP couldn't do that. There are so many Jamaicans who will now benefit years to come when they become pensionable. Contract workers, as we know, are now permanent employees. Allowances are now salary. We are moving you from poverty to prosperity. Mr. Speaker, housing. The most honorable Prime Minister embarked on a social housing program providing for over 286 houses so far. But I have to admit jealousy. Due to the hilly terrain and land slippage issue, most of my constituents are not able to qualify. And so, Mr. Speaker, I'm requesting that a solution is found for MPs like myself. Maybe a significant allocation can be made using the same criteria for needy residents who have unfinished, dilapidated structures to provide the necessary funding to see these homes finished. Mr. Speaker, I am grateful for the rains, but the 10 main roads in West Rural have suffered severe damages, and I wish to express a timely intervention through NAA, through Minister Morgan, with a patching program that will see many of the horrible areas reinstated. Lawrence Tavern Square, which was badly damaged, is now looking better. A program is in place for Lawrence Tavern to Cassava River, Tavern to Border, Rock Hall to Park Road, Golden Spring to Mount Pleasant, especially in the Mount Airy section. I will ask again that we look into a maintenance, bushing, and tree limbing program for rural communities. These overhanging bamboos damage the roadways by keeping the moisture in the asphalt and blocking the sunlight. These areas need constant repair. And so, Mr. Speaker, let me also place on record that the recommended 2 to 3 inches of asphalt overlay is usually not done. I call for stricter enforcement from NAA. The areas in St. Andrew West Rural where we see most of the deterioration are in Lawrence Tavern and Brandon Hill. And I would also like a dedicated twice per year bushing for those areas mentioned. I'm also grateful for the Spark program that will enhance many communities with brand new road surfaces, and we are looking forward to the start date. Mr. Speaker, they say one hand can't clap, and I wish to place on record to congratulate my 3 councillors. I see one in the stands today. Councillor Tasha Schwab, Councillor John Myers, Councillor Rowan Hall. The people of West Rural spoke firmly on February 3rd that time no come for we leave, and they will return myself and our dedicated Prime Minister when the next election is called. I wish to thank my constituency office assistant, my ministry office assistant, my drivers, my 2 CPOs, my West Rural management team, my fundraising team. Kudos to your support. My sweet, beautiful daughter, Zara, who was in the belly while I was campaigning in 2016, and of course, my husband, who has been unwavering support and strength through it all. I want to thank him. To my wonderful constituents, and some of them are here today, I love you all. Thanks to so many of you who call or WhatsApp just to say, keep going, MP. But I wish to name and call out, and I'm asking, Mr. Donaldson is not here. He's actually in Canada, flew out today. But I want to have Monica stand up from Cushney Road. Mr. Donaldson and Monica, these 2 constituents have called me every month for the last 8 years just to check on me. Thanks. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Monica, for the mental check every month, just to call to ask me how I'm doing. It is appreciated, and I love you. Mr. Speaker, the battle is on, and I'm ready. St. Andrew, West Rural is ready. We have a lot of work to do, and I will continue to lobby for the people, for this beautiful Jamaica land I love, and lobby to make sure that this government gets the 3rd term and move this country from poverty to prosperity. I thank you. Just like that.
Very good. House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member from West Rural, St. Andrew, for a really outstanding presentation in this constituency debate. Congratulations, member. We're now going to call on the member from Western Hanover, MP Tamika Davis, to make her contribution.
Member from Western Hanover.
Psalm 32:8 reads, I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will guide thee with mine eyes. Mr. Speaker, my life has been the living embodiment of that verse, as God has faithfully taken this little country girl from Middlesex to a place where I can help to transform the lives of persons in my constituency. Thanks be to God. To him be all the glory, honor, and praise. Mr. Speaker, it is said that behind every great leader is a team of relentless individuals who share the vision and work tirelessly to turn visions into reality. Now, I will take time out to honor those who have been instrumental not only on my journey to becoming a member of Parliament, but who continue to labor with me in the field in my bid to bring great and lasting change to the great constituency of Hanover Western. First, let me acknowledge my family. My mother, Hepsi Hopkins, who is a retired teacher. It is said of teachers that they are like candles in that they consume themselves to light the way for others. It was you, Mother, who first taught me what it means to live a life of service to others. Thank you. To my daughter, Ogeji, my external heartbeat, who inspires me to work harder to create a better future for her and other young Jamaicans. I wish to extend gratitude to my extended family members who never hesitate to offer advice, encouragement, and much needed prayers. I also owe a great debt of gratitude to my hard-working constituency staff, caretakers, management and executive team members, workers, supporters, all who diligently help to execute the shared vision of a transformed Hanover Western. Thanks also to my legal staff and colleagues whose invaluable support allows me to maintain my law practice while also giving effective representation to my constituency. To all my parliamentary colleagues, I recognize and appreciate you individually and collectively. I pause to acknowledge the support and guidance of the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, the most industrious and visionary Prime Minister this side of the Western Hemisphere, who, while completing his PhD and presiding over an economic recovery, still found time to offer words of encouragement and sage political advice when called upon. But most importantly, I want to thank the people of Hanover Western who entrusted me with the responsibility of representing their interests.
Good people.
It is with a spirit of humility and a posture of determination that I reaffirm my commitment to you all to bring to life the vision of a future of shared prosperity for every man, woman, and child in the constituency. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, as climate change continues to intensify, the frequency and severity of hurricanes are expected to be on the increase, with devastating impacts. Hanover Western was not spared the wrath of Hurricane Beryl, as many individuals suffered severe damage to their houses, businesses, and their farms. And tragically, there was one loss of life. I will take this opportunity to again offer condolences to the family of Keon Sterling, the young mother who died during the passage of Hurricane Beryl, leaving behind her 2 young sons. These 2 young boys were plunged into further grief as shortly after their father was also killed in a motor vehicle accident. As Member of Parliament, I have been in close contact with the family, and I stand ready to provide further psychosocial and financial resources to help these 2 young boys weather this loss. My team and I toured many of the affected communities in the days that followed in a bid to assess the damage and to reassure the citizens that help would be forthcoming. Swift help came in the form of a special post-burial allocation from the government, with which we were able to assist well over 70 families. An additional 300 persons received financial assistance in the form of checks, which were handed over by the Minister of Labour and Social Security. The ability of this Andrew Holness-led government to respond in such a timely manner is indicative of how important it is to have a strong economy that will enable a government to respond effectively to external shocks. Yes. The loss of a house can be a harrowing experience, and providing assistance to constituents whose houses were destroyed was therefore of paramount importance to me. And I will share two stories of how some persons who were left homeless received the much needed help. The first is that of Miss Isilda Carr from Blenheim, also called Miss Rona, who, after the passage of the hurricane, had to make a hut from pieces of zinc that she recovered. This structure was not even high enough to allow her room to stand, and actually required her to crawl to get inside when she needed. Today, Miss Rona is the proud owner of a lovely home, complete with a bathroom and kitchen and a yacht style. Miss Rona is here in the gallery. The second family is Mr. Ashanti. He also had the devastating experience of his home being completely destroyed, which placed him in the uncomfortable position of having to ask different neighbors to house his 4 children. With assistance from the Prime Minister, who approved and caused soldiers to be deployed, they assisted with the rebuilding efforts in both instances. Donations were received in this venture from Victor Industrial Hardware and Mr. Kenroy Marks and his wife, Denise. Through their act of kindness, Mr. Campbell, his common-law spouse, Iona, and their children are now the owners of a 2-bedroom home, complete with a bathroom, kitchen, and a living area. This example of philanthropy is proof positive that we have not lost our humanity, and that we as a community and people still love and care for each other. As you are well aware, Mr. Speaker, housing is a fundamental human need. Access to same can lift people out of extreme poverty by providing stability. This underscores the importance of Prime Minister Holness's flagship new social housing program, which has the important objective of improving the housing condition of the country's poor and disadvantaged. Through this initiative, we were able to provide brand new homes to 3 elderly constituents, Miss Enid Chisholm from Bark, Mr. Ashley Campbell from Blenheim, and Miss Angela Palmer from Campbell Hill. As you might recall, Mr. Speaker, Chambers Pen was the very first community to benefit from the Rural Development Program under the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. This initiative seeks to transform rural communities in Jamaica. For Chambers Pen, what a transformation it was. Chambers Pen saw significant improvements in its road network, infrastructural upgrades, internet access, electricity access, and more than 1,500 households were connected to the National Water Commission. And we are not done with Chambers Pen yet, as 2 indigent residents of the said community receive brand new homes. Housing infrastructure was also the focus for us on Labor Day, and as a constituency, we embarked on different housing projects for our most vulnerable and elderly, in keeping with the national theme. We partnered with the Riverside New Testament Church of God with rebuilding efforts, and we took on the initiative to build a brand new home for Master Jasper, whose house collapsed while he was inside. Onto the vexed issue of roads. Mr. Speaker, Hanover Western has approximately 155 kilometers of road network, which falls under the National Works Agency, and approximately more than half of this can be described as being in a deplorable state. main corridors, such as Green Island to Glasgow, Riley to Glasgow, Riley to Askinish, and Kingsvale to Prospect, are all in dire need of repairs and rehabilitation. In my previous presentation, I made mention of the 40 million road rehabilitation project, which had targeted Riley to Askinish, Middlesex to Mount Carmel, and Dyers to Davis Cove. Even though this program was completed and it made life easier for motorists, much is left to be done, as funds allocated could only accomplish so much. But I want to highlight the Kew to Lucy corridor, mainly the seawall area. Anyone who has ever traveled to Lucy must pass through this corridor. The section of the roadway is approximately 400 meters in length and runs parallel to the sea. The town of Lucy is below sea level, and the lack of drainage causes the roadway to be flooded with water from time to time, causing potholes or huge craters, I'd say. These hazards cause not only a huge buildup of traffic within the township, but it causes hours of delays for motorists having to traverse the town heading to either Montego Bay or Negril. Serious and immediate consideration must be given to this area for long-term solutions, whether it be the use of boulders or whether it is incorporating cement as a way to fix this area. Yes. It is untenable that this important thoroughfare can remain in such a condition for such an extended period of time. I know that the NWA has plans now to conduct a hot mixing program along the main corridor. This needs to be done urgently, as not only is it a busy thoroughfare for residents, it is the main highway which links the tourist destinations of Negril with Montego Bay. It cannot remain in this condition. It is for this reason that the recent announcement that the government's innovative Spark program is at the procurement stage is welcome news. This initiative, once implemented, will effect dramatic improvements to the road infrastructure, not only in Hanover Western, but across the length and breadth of Jamaica. After our successful consultation meeting, please be advised that these recommendations will guide the selection of the roads. This program will also be complemented by the government's REACH program. The following communities will be allocated a sum of $2 million. The Clinic Hill, which is in the Dyers area, Russell Lane, which is in the Lucy area, Green Island to Prospect Square, Green Island to Grange, Lucy to Dundee Pen, and Kendall to Cessnock. There have been some notable achievements as it relates to roadworks, although I must emphasize it is still not enough. Approximately 1 kilometer of roadway from Middlesex to McLaren Gate was rehabilitated at a cost of $10 million. 1 kilometer of roadway was also done on the Raleigh to Bushmouth corridor at a cost of $16 million. The Dalmally Road was also rehabilitated, and patching was done through the CDF program on the Cave Valley, Mount Peace, and Kew roads. Mr. Speaker, as a fellow member of Parliament yourself, I am sure you are well acquainted with the sheer frustration of contending with the lengthy timeline of scoping of the works, to transmitting a contract document, to implementation of the roads in the constituency. I present this challenge to the Minister with responsibility for works, that he should strengthen and improve the implementation time and prevent the potential impact of rising project costs as well. For years, students and other pedestrians who traverse the road from the Hanover Parish Library to the... Yes.
House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I ask that the member's time be extended by a further 10 minutes to allow her to complete her presentation.
The request is on the floor that the speaker time be extended. Those in favor? Aye. Those against, the ayes have it. Madam Speaker, you may continue. presenter.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. Urban renewal and development. For years, students and other pedestrians who traverse the road from the Hanover Parish Library to the town of Lucy often have to contend with the narrow roads and lot of vehicular traffic. To address this situation, we are currently undertaking a project that will see a sidewalk being constructed along this roadway. Further beautification of the town will come in the removal of zinc fence along the main road leading into the town of Lucy. Sports. Sports can be an important tool for community development in that constituents of all backgrounds and ages can, through the shared experience of cheering, playing, and participating, can foster a sense of belonging and pride in the community. This can help to break down social barriers, build stronger connections, and have groups interact that may not otherwise do so. It was therefore my immense pleasure to launch a constituency football league. Thanks to an allocation from the Minister of Culture, Sports and Entertainment. The matches were well supported, and Bachelor's Hall overcame stiff competition to be eventually crowned the inaugural winners. I also did not hesitate when asked to assist with the sponsorship of the Hanover Football Association as well as the Hanover Cricket Association. As a result, we have also partnered with TPDCO through our Spruce Up Jamaica allocation to create a multi-purpose court at Lord's Playfield, which will include galvanized chain link fencing, paved with asphalt tennis court mix, and sporting equipment for netball, basketball, and volleyball. I continue to devise strategies that foster social cohesion and the holistic development of our constituents. Mr. Speaker, it was Benjamin Franklin who said that an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. The almost $5 million which we provided in tertiary tuition assistance to students is not only an investment in these individuals, but to the society at large. Because it has often been said, he who opens a school door closes a prison. Other educational assistance includes the dispersal of more than 700 back-to-school vouchers and the hosting of back-to-school fairs where students receive bags, pens, pencils, and all the relevant gear for their back-to-school term. Mr. Speaker, this year saw the third staging of the Hanover Western Pep Award ceremony, which awards prizes to the top boy and top girl for every primary and prep school in the constituency. I must offer my thanks and appreciation to the Grand Palladium Hotel for partnering with us to host this prestigious event once again, which fosters friendly competition while celebrating educational excellence. Thanks also to my parliamentary colleague from Central Manchester, who put the icing on a great evening. Mr. Speaker, we have also launched an educational memorial grant in honor of one of our dedicated supporters, Miss Arlene Campbell, who sadly departed this life in 2023. The scholarship each year will be given to a student of the Riverside Primary School, her alma mater. It is our children who shall inherit the future, and I'm a firm believer that young persons should be engaging with understanding topical issues such as climate change and violence in our society. Doing this not only helps them to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, but they also gain a sense of responsibility. For the second year in a row, I launched the essay competition across the constituency, and today, with me in the gallery, are the top 10 successful entrants, and they were already acknowledged earlier. I must also thank the Minister Vaz, whose ministry donated some of the top prizes. Through the assistance of the Whole Heart Autism Charity Foundation, Mr. Speaker, I was able to hand over tablets to 6 autistic students. Many autistic students face unique challenges in traditional learning environment, such as difficulties with communication, social interaction, and sensory overload. So these tablets can provide personalized learning experiences with apps and tools designed to cater to their needs. Building an equitable society and empowering the most vulnerable in our society is deeply ingrained within the DNA of this Andrew Holness-led administration. Mr. Speaker, a writer once said that thousands have lived without love, but none without water. The lack of this precious resource continues to be a cause of great concern for residents. We have been, through government allocation of $4 million, trucked water to severely affected communities such as Pell River, Blenheim, Williamsfield, Caldwell, to some of our schools as well, Middlesex Corner Primary, Upper Rock Spring Primary, Cocoon Primary, Askinish Primary, to name a few. This, however, is a short-term measure, and there have been recent improvements in the constituency to improve the water supply in the long term. These include increased pumping capacity, pump upgrade at Q Lift Station, additional storage tank at the Dolphin Head, leak repair at the Salt Creek Bridge, pipeline rerouting, and relocating customers to the newly installed 4-inch pipelines into Marchtown and Cave Valley. There are some projects also in the pipeline, such as the reinstallation of the pump at Malcolm Heights, the assessment and upgrade of the Pell River water plant, and the construction of a new pumping plant at Campbell Hill. Mr. Speaker, at this time I wish to close with some words of encouragement for my fellow parliamentarians. I leave them with the words of the Apostle Paul in his letter to the Corinthians. Therefore, my beloved brothers, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. May the Lord strengthen the hands of every member of this honorable house and grant us the moral courage to act correctly, even in the smallest of decisions, so that our collective efforts will help bring about a future of prosperity for every resident of this God-blessed island called Jamaica. I thank you.
Members who are still in the House. House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, just want to congratulate Ms. Tamika Davis from the great constituency of Western Hanover, and have no doubt she will be the representative for a long, long time with such outstanding performance to date. Mr. Speaker, I now ask for the suspension of the constituency debate at this time.
The request is that we move for the suspension of the constituency debate. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader.
Could you go back to the agenda, Mr. Speaker?
The request is that we now recommit to the agenda as is. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. Announcement.
Laid on the table of the House are the following: Second, interim report of the Integrity Commission Oversight Committee on its deliberations on the 2023-2024 annual report and other reports of the Integrity Commission. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Hazardous Substances Regulatory Authority for the financial year 2018-2019. And finally, the annual report and audited financial statements of the Consumer Affairs Commission for the financial year 2020-2021. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bills brought from the Senate. Petitions. Papers. Report from committees.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Chairman of the Integrity Commission Oversight Committee, I beg to lay on the table of the House a copy of the second interim report of that Oversight Committee, the Integrity Commission Oversight Committee, on its deliberations on the 2023-24 annual report and other reports from the Integrity Commission.
Notices of motion given orally. Questions and answers. Sorry.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move, be it resolved that the second interim report of the Integrity Commission Oversight Committee on its deliberations on the 2023-24 annual report and other reports on the Integrity Commission, which was laid on the table of the House on the 16th day of October 2024, be adopted.
Notice of motion.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker. I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion. Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Chairman of the Infrastructure and Physical Development Committee, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move, be it resolved, with reference to the resolution approved by this Honorable House on the 29th day of September 2020, appointing an Infrastructure and Physical Development Committee, that the committee be allowed to hold hybrid meetings that are partly virtual and partly physical, utilizing available information and communication technologies in a manner more specifically outlined below, preserving the rights, powers, and privileges, including voting rights, normally accorded to a member of a committee. The committee is hereby empowered, 1, convene and hold meetings in virtual spaces created using information and communication technologies, which shall be considered committee meetings for the purpose of the mandate of the committee. 2, allow access and participation from remote locations as are enabled by means of information and virtual technologies by members and other persons authorized by the committee. 3, include members accessing and participating from remote locations as a part of the quorum. 4, receive, consider, deliberate on, and respond to feedback and submissions in formats, modes, and media, and via platforms, modes, and media enabled by means of information and communication technologies from any person. 5, consider any and all information generated, communicated, and received via formats, platforms, modes, or media as enabled by means of information and communication technologies as forming a part of the record of the committee's meetings. Mr. Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion.
Questions and answers to questions. Motion that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to the sitting of the House. Motions for leave to introduce bills. Presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Public business.
Mr. Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
The request is on the floor. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, this is in relation to the Integrity Commission Oversight Committee report, and I would ask that the motion be approved. Sorry.
Mr. Speaker, in supporting the member who table and is in charge of this motion, I just want to make an important correction that should have been done yesterday at the Standing Finance Committee, because we did receive a copy of the report from the Integrity Commission, this year's report 2022-23 and 23-24, and it did have in it verified audited statements from the Commission. And I think a member yesterday misspoke on that issue, so I want to make it clear that in the report that we got, it did have in it audited financial statements for the Commission. And indeed, I have seen a report from them today that they have been supplying us every year with these audited financial statements. So I just want to make that clear, that we have those in the reports that we got recently.
Thank you, Member. I suspect at the next meeting of the Oversight Committee, we will correct that and make it a part of the minutes. I now ask for the report be adopted.
The request is on the floor that the report being adopted. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, in relation to the request for the Infrastructure and Physical Development Committee to meet virtually, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
The request is on the floor. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? Ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that the motion of which I gave notice earlier be approved.
The request for the approval, those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, the matters remaining, there are two pieces of legislation to be dealt with by Minister Clark. I suspect he'll be here in another minute. I understand he's in his vehicle coming up. So should we just ask for short adjournment? As soon as he's here, we'll ask him to come down.
Recess.
He's coming down.
A recess.
He left his office.
So at this,
should take him 2 minutes.
At this time, I am guided that you ask for a suspension of the sitting until he arrives.
Very well, Mr. Speaker. I now ask for a suspension of the sitting until the Minister Clark is here.
The request is on the floor for a suspension of the sitting of the House of Parliament at this time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. We'll We will now ask for the resumption of the sitting of the House at this time.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister Clerk will now move the legislation before us.
Minister, you may now take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to introduce the Financial Commission Amendment Act 2023. Mr. Speaker, the financial crisis experienced by Jamaica in the 1990s, the collapse of CL Financial in Trinidad, the recent global economic crisis in 2007, all of these have highlighted the significant risks that financial groups can pose to the growth and stability of both global and local economies. These crises expose situations in which regulatory and supervisory regimes did not fully identify or mitigate the risks and the potentially adverse systemic impact associated with complex group structures. Due to their economic reach across sectors and jurisdictions, financial groups present huge challenges for supervisory oversight. In order to rectify these regulatory deficiencies, the Joint Forum, comprising of representatives from the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, the International Organization of Securities Commission, and the International Association of Insurance Supervisors, jointly published for the first time Principles for the Supervision of Financial Conglomerates in 2012. Additionally, international regulatory bodies such as the IAIS, International Association of Insurance and Supervisors, recommended that regulators establish group-wide supervisory framework. Group-wide supervision, Mr. Speaker, is reputed to provide greater insight into affairs and the financial condition of financial groups, and therefore the international standard-setting bodies, the International Monetary Fund, the Financial Stability Board, are requiring all regulators to develop and implement such frameworks. Furthermore, Jamaica underwent a mutual evaluation with the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, and several deficiencies were identified, which included lack of consolidated supervision of non-deposit taking groups. And this was in the mutual evaluation report published in 2017. It is widely documented and accepted that solo supervision, i.e. the supervision of a financial institution by its regulator on a standalone basis, are not taking into consideration the influence, the interaction, and the impact of the group's activities and decisions, is not sufficient to protect users of the financial market when that financial institution is a member of a group. While there are benefits to prescribed financial institutions from having group membership, there are significant risks to the viability of the prescribed financial institution and, by extension, the wider financial market. As such, this bill, the Financial Services Commission Amendment Act, seeks to enhance the regulatory framework for effective and comprehensive group-wide supervision of non-deposit taking groups. The amendments to the Financial Services Commission Act, consequential amendments to the Pensions, Insurance, and Securities Act will further empower the Financial Services Commission to conduct group-wide supervision and the promulgation of new regulations to govern the FSC's group-wide supervisory framework. Mr. Speaker, I'll now move through the clauses of the bill. Clause 2 contains an amendment to Section 2 of the Principal Act to include the definition of important terms such as global group, group-wide supervision, and prescribed financial group. Mr. Speaker, Clause 3 amends Section 3 of the Act, Section 6 of the Principal Act, which sets out the general functions of the Commission to empower the FSC to carry out effective group-wide supervision, including regulating and supervising prescribed holding companies for non-deposit taking institutions. For example, the Commission may require a prescribed holding company or a company within a prescribed financial group to provide information relating to A, whether any company within a prescribed financial group is obtaining financing or any other direct or indirect benefit from the prescribed holding company or from any other company within the group, or B, any risk of exposure to any company within a prescribed financial group which arises from the operations of any company within the group or from the operations of the prescribed holding company, The amendment also seeks to empower the Commission to issue directions or guidelines to a prescribed holding company or any company within a prescribed financial group. Clause 5 inserts new sections 8A and 8B to include provisions in relation to the insolvency, winding up, and reconstruction of prescribed holding companies. A prescribed holding company that has conditions subject to remedial action may be required by the Commission to give an undertaking to take such corrective action as may be agreed between the prescribed holding company and the Commission, or may be issued a cease and desist order by the Commission. Clause 6 inserts new sections 14A to 14M pertaining to the licensing and supervision of prescribed holding companies. The section includes fit and proper criteria for the prescribed holding companies to satisfy. It is imperative that the directors, managers of such institutions satisfy the requirements as the financial soundness of any prescribed holding company can be eroded if the persons controlling or managing the prescribed holding company do not have the requisite experience, skill, and integrity. The first provision under Section 14A requires that a prescribed financial institution and any company associated with it shall be controlled by a prescribed holding company. In order to operate as a prescribed holding company, a company shall apply to the Commission for a license. It also stipulates the requirement for applications, including the forms set out in the 5th schedule and the application fee prescribed by the Commission. Section 14C includes provisions which set out the requirements for consideration by the FSC to grant or refuse an application for a license. Section 14A details the circumstances under which the Commission may suspend the license of a prescribed holding company. Some of the circumstances under which the Commission may do so includes where a prescribed holding company, A, no longer satisfies the conditions governing the grant of the license, B, has breached any of the terms or conditions of the license, or C, has failed to pay the annual license fee. Section 14I sets out the provisions for which the Commission may revoke the license of a prescribed holding company. A license can be revoked where A, the prescribed holding company has failed to comply with the provisions of this Act or regulations made under this Act. B, the application for a license made by the prescribed holding company contained false or misleading information in a material particular. Or C, the prescribed holding company failed to remedy a breach which gave rise to a suspension of the license. Section 14J stipulates that the Commission may issue directions for the restructuring of a prescribed financial group or prescribed financial institution where A, a group which comprises one or more prescribed financial institutions is not controlled by a prescribed holding company. B, the structure of a prescribed financial group is likely to impede group-wide supervision. C, a prescribed financial group has control of a branch, subsidiary, or company outside of Jamaica. Or D, a prescribed financial institution is a member of a prescribed financial group which has a branch, subsidiary, or control of a company outside of Jamaica. Clause 7 deletes Section 16(1)(di) and replaces it to update the relevant anti-money laundering and combating terrorism and proliferation financing enactments under which the Commission may disclose information on the prior written consent request of the Minister to the designated authority to facilitate any investigation of an offence under these acts. In Section 16(1)(e), the words "an overseas regulatory authority" is deleted and substituted with the words "a foreign financial regulatory authority." The new term defined in Section 2 as a regulatory authority in a country other than Jamaica which has supervisory functions, A, with respect to a company that is incorporated and provides financial services in that country, and B, that are similar to the functions of the Bank of Jamaica or the Commission. Clause 8, Section 18(1)(b) is revised to ensure that under this Act the Commission may be empowered to make regulations providing for the imposition of fees and charges for licensing and registration. This clause inserts Section 18(3) where the Minister may, taking into account the recommendations of the Commission, prescribe by order matters including A, license fees, B, group capital adequacy ratios and limits on capital gearing for groups, and C, group liquidity metrics and limits for intercompany balances, transactions, and large exposure for a prescribed financial group, and D, the risk management framework for the management of investment assets. Clause 9, Madam Speaker, inserts new sections 18A and 18B to give the Commission the power to make regulations for group-wide supervision of prescribed financial groups and to amend monetary penalties. In order to ensure effective group-wide supervision of prescribed holding companies and constituent members of a prescribed financial group, the Commission, with the approval of the Minister, may make regulations, A, for the prescription of solvency and other requirements for prescribed financial groups, B, establishing minimum standards and best practices for corporate governance, risk management, large exposure and concentration limits, intra-group transactions, and any other standards that the Commission may deem fit, and C, for reporting and disclosure by companies within a prescribed financial group, including the prescribed holding company. Clause 3, I'm dealing with the schedules now. Clause 13 contains provisions for the amendment to Part A of the third schedule. The provision sets out the circumstances under which the FSC can take remedial action for not only prescribed financial institutions but also prescribed holding companies. Some of the circumstances under which the Commission may take enforcement actions are: 1, the prescribed financial institution, a prescribed holding company or director, employee, agent, or either of them, in the conduct of the business of the prescribed financial institution or prescribed holding company, A, is engaged in or about to engage in an unsafe or unsound business practice, or B, is contravening or has contravened 1, any provision of this Act or any relevant act or regulations made thereunder, or 2, any condition of the license or registration granted under this Act or any relevant Act. 2, a director or manager has ceased to be a fit and proper person, and the prescribed financial institution or prescribed holding company has refused or neglected to take appropriate action. Clause 14 sets out the amendment to the fourth schedule to include fixed penalties for offenses relating to prescribed holding companies. Clause 15 includes the insertion of new 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th schedules. The 5th schedule contains the application form for prescribed holding company. The 6th schedule contains the prescribed documents which are required to accompany an application for a license, for example, a strategic business plan. And the 7th schedule contains a form of license or certificate of a license for a prescribed holding company. The 8th schedule contains fit and proper questionnaire. Mr. Speaker, consequential amendments were also made to the sector legislation to strengthen the regulatory framework for effective and comprehensive group-wide supervision of non-deposit taking groups. These included consequential amendments to the Pension, Superannuation Funds and Retirement Schemes, Insurance and Securities Act. Mr. Speaker, the promulgation of the Financial Services Commission Amendment Act 2023 will allow Jamaica to have another regulatory tool to enhance financial sector stability and offer a greater level of protection for financial consumers by establishing group-wide supervisory framework for non-deposit taking groups. Mr. Speaker, I now invite members of this Honourable House to support the passage of the Financial Services Commission Amendment Act 2023 and consequential amendments to the Pensions, Superannuation Funds and Retirement Schemes Act, as well as Insurance and Securities Act. Mr. Speaker, I ask that
Mr. Speaker, I have some comments first on process before I get to the substantive matter. This legislation that is being passed today has significant and far-reaching implications for non-DTI institutions. And given the implications for these institutions, notwithstanding the time period between which the bill was laid in the Parliament and it is now being taken, I have concerns about the level of consultation and input from the industry with regard to this. So my first question, Minister, to what extent have the concerns that have been expressed by industry players been incorporated into amendments that I'm asking whether there are any amendments to the current bill, or is this the same bill that would have been tabled many months ago that we're seeking to pass? Secondly, I would have preferred for a bill of this nature, given its far-reaching implications, to go before a joint select committee to provide an opportunity for the industry players and other stakeholders to provide their feedback, because, as I said, it is going to fundamentally alter the way the non-DTI institutions operate within the financial services industry. So from a process perspective, as I said, while there's been a lengthy hiatus between the tabling and now the taking, the consultation that I believe was necessary has not taken place. And so we are going to pass, I'm not saying no consultation has taken place, because I know there has been, but the concerns of industry players, I don't believe has been fully incorporated into this. So I'd start there from a process perspective. I understand the desire to get it through, but in ensuring that our stakeholders are brought on board, I think it's important that their input is there. For example, I'll just give one example. Is there a transitionary period in the bill, or does the bill take effect immediately after it is passed here, goes to the Senate, and then to the Governor General? Because if that is so, it would immediately put these institutions in breach of the law. And I just use that as one example. So the process concerns me, Mr. Speaker, and I would ask the Minister if he could address those concerns.
Thank you, Member. Mr. Speaker, this bill was tabled in this House a long time ago. If I'm not mistaken, it was tabled in September of 2023. It was tabled 12 months ago. Okay? And I have waited all of this time to facilitate any concerns or feedback from members of the industry. The FSC and the Ministry of Finance has had the opportunity to meet with industry players. Specifically, I know that we'd have had a meeting with the Jamaica Security Dealers Association many months ago, and we'd have had communication with the Insurance, I believe, Association of Jamaica. And in both instances, persons have, and others, we have had communication as well from individual entities who have taken it upon themselves to write to the ministry. And so we have allowed a year, which is not customary, for a bill proposed by the government to be available in the public space to allow for feedback. And the FSC has reviewed a lot of the feedback and the suggestions that have come forward and has recommended certain amendments that are here before us. I can't say that every single thing, yeah, it was distributed yesterday. We're going to have to distribute it again today. It was distributed yesterday. Yeah, they're going to bring it to you. So it's not going to have everything that everybody would have had, you know, on their list. Some of the feedback that we got, in some cases, were redundant, and in other cases would act against the spirit and of the bill. Let's be very clear what is at stake here. Okay, let's be very, very clear what is at stake here. I think Jamaica now understands for sure that when we talk about financial sector regulation, it's not about the owners, directors, or executives. It's about the people of Jamaica. Because financial sector failure, for whatever reason, has the potential to have wide consequences in the rest of the economy and the remainder of the society, and even far away from the country. The non-deposit taking sector in Jamaica has grown leaps and bounds, which is a good thing, and today it is much larger than the banking sector in terms of assets under management. With the series of financial crises that the world has experienced, and by the world I don't mean just the global financial crisis, but financial crisis in Jamaica, financial crisis in country X, country Y, country Z, the standards have evolved. And the requirement or the recommendations that other countries have already adopted is to have supervision of group holding companies where a prescribed financial institution exists. Now, this is going to represent change, and sometimes change can be uncomfortable. But what is at stake here is the stability of the Jamaican economy. And we can't step back from our responsibility to implement the best regulatory standards for the financial sector, even if aspects of it might represent change that entities have to adapt to. For some entities, it might be that the structure they have had, it doesn't make sense to no longer have it if it means everything is going to come under a financial hold, is going to come under this kind of regulatory scrutiny, right? So what you're going to see is potentially different structures in the financial sector, and that's great. But what we can't do is hold back this regulation, this regulatory improvement that is for the safety and soundness of the Jamaican financial sector on account of the inconvenience that it might cause. We've taken great care with the amendment sheet, to catch certain things that were particularly problematic. And there are one or two here that the sector had mentioned to us and were particularly that we had to address. Some of the amendments are in the bill itself, right? So is that the bill here today is not the same bill. Sorry, I should have said that up front. The bill that we're going to pass today is not the same bill that came in September 2023. The feedback that we got updated the bill, and on top of that, there are even more amendments that we're bringing here today. So we use the year efficiently, or productively, I should say, in seeking feedback. Okay, yeah, yes. So let me make that very clear. The members asked a question, very good question, allows for clarification, which I think addresses a substantial part of his concern. The bill that we're going to pass today is not the same bill that was tabled in September 2023. The bill today includes a number of amendments that have been, the FSC has indicated the things that it has accepted for the most part. So the members of the industry would know some of those things. I was speaking to further amendments that happened since that. So it's not been one round, it's been more than one round, it's been more than one stakeholder group. Security dealers, insurance, different stakeholder groups, and different entities as well have taken it upon themselves to make their own submissions. So we've been very careful with it, because as you say, it is far-reaching. If you have structured your activities and for the last 20 years you have a group, and within the group you have a regulated entity, now all of a sudden that entire group is going to come under FSC regulations, a massive change. So what we've tried to do by tabling it last September is to send the signal out to all entities in that position that this change is coming. And they've had a year knowing that this change is coming. And so we think that it's reasonable to now put this bill to the House and have it passed. So in that spirit. Exactly, yes. We've told people that this is coming. We tabled it a year ago. We met with them. We explained why it is happening. You remember, this is we shouldn't always have to appeal to our international agreements to do the right thing. It's the right thing for Jamaica whether we have international agreements or not. But it also is the case that Jamaica's international agreements require us to keep up to date with global regulatory change. And as we mentioned, the fact that we didn't have regulation for financial holding companies was cited as a deficiency in a 2017 mutual evaluation of Jamaica under our CFATF arrangements. Yeah? So Mr. Speaker, please, go ahead.
To what extent would the amendments we've made and the passage of this bill impact the upcoming Twin Peaks legislation? And that one is absolutely far-reaching. So, again, another concern would be, having made these changes now, they may get to a stage in another 2 years possibly where they have to go through another fundamental set of changes to how they operate. So can you speak to that?
Thank you for that question, which allows me to, again, provide a clarification. So, under Twin Peaks, what is happening is simply that we're consolidating prudential regulation under one entity and consolidating market conduct regulation under another. So this represents prudential regulation. And what we're saying is that not only should a prescribed entity be regulated, but the holding company of the prescribed entity has to also be regulated. So today, on the passage of this bill, it will be regulated by the FSC. Under Twin Peaks, what would happen is that this regulatory architecture would just shift to the BOJ. Okay, so it won't be, that won't be dislocated. Now, I should add that what we're doing here as well is just, a few years ago, regulation was passed for the regulation of bank holding companies, you'll recall. Right? So not just banks, but the holding company of banks, which led to reorganization in the banking sector. You'll recall that, right? So Jamaica National had to reorganize, NCB reorganized. Similarly, this, because people may choose not to have then their holding companies regulated under this measure, and they may seek to reorganize. And that's why we came out, gave everybody, the year to say, look, this is coming. But the Twin Peaks doesn't affect it. It's just what would happen is that it would be the BOJ regulated instead of FSC. So, Mr. Speaker, with that, I ask for second reading of the bill.
The question is that this bill be accepted. Those be read a second time, sorry. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. Minister.
A bill entitled An Act to Amend the Financial Services Commission Act. Read a second time.
We now resolve into a committee, sessional committee of the whole House to take the bill clause by clause.
Before you do that, just a clarification. Something was handed out, an amendment sheet. Yeah, updated, but this is for the SAC bill. This is not right. Attached. Right. Okay. So I've gotten one for the SAC. Okay. All right. Thanks. Got it. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, the amendments have been circulated.
Mr.
Chairman, thank you. The amendments have been circulated, and to be clear, these are amendments on top of amendments that are already included in the bill. And I ask that these amendments be accepted.
Those in favor? Aye. Those against? Ayes have it.
If there, I don't know if my members will agree that we can just take the bill in as amended. It's been here for a year. Can we take the bill as amended?
The question is that I do report. Sorry. Take the bill as amended. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? Ayes have it. I now put clause 1 to I put clause 1 to 20 and the title and acting clauses. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The question is that I do report the bill as having passed committee stage with 5 amendments. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. We now resume to a full sitting of the House. I do report the bill as having passed committee stage with 5 amendments. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for third reading of the bill.
The question is that the bill be read a third time. Those in favor? Those against?
A bill entitled An Act to Amend the Financial Services Commission Act read a third time and passed.
So, Chase, we're going to take this time. We're going to take this section. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to introduce the Segregated Accounts Companies Bill 2023. And I do so on behalf of my colleague minister who sits elsewhere. Mr. Speaker, this bill seeks to provide for the registration and operation of companies that operate segregated accounts or incorporated segregated accounts. A segregated account company is a registered company under the Companies Act which comprises of one or more segregated accounts. A segregated account is a distinct account which separates its assets and liabilities from the assets and liabilities of the other accounts in the segregated accounts company. The segregated account allows the company to separate its holdings, assets and liabilities so that the liability incurred over one set of assets of one segregated account will not be a burden to any other account. A segregated account allows for flexibility where a company wishes to engage in a variety of activities to prevent the company from having to incorporate a new company for each venture. This may be particularly attractive for companies which manage several investments and other portfolios. Further, Mr. Speaker, it prevents winding up procedures of the entire company at the termination of each portfolio. Instead, the termination of one account becomes an internal procedure for the segregated account company. An incorporated segregated account company is a registered company under the Companies Act, which is comprised of one or more incorporated segregated accounts, each having a separate legal personality. All the benefits mentioned above are applicable to the incorporated segregated account company. However, the distinction is that each incorporated segregated account can hold assets in its own name and sue and be sued. Investors and businesses, therefore, have the option to choose the vehicle which best suits their need and further facilitates the ease of doing business in Jamaica. The bill, therefore, provides for the principles and distinctions associated with these types of companies, including a segregated accounts company is permitted to establish one or more segregated accounts, each of which qualifies as a separate account of the segregated accounts company. An incorporated segregated accounts company is permitted to establish one or more incorporated segregated accounts which are separate legal persons, distinct from the incorporated segregated accounts company. The assets and liabilities of a segregated accounts company that are attributed to a particular segregated account or incorporated segregated account are separate from the assets and liabilities attributed to other such accounts. And resulting from the segregation of assets and liabilities, a creditor of one such account does not have recourse against the assets of other segregated accounts. Further, the bill allows companies established thereunder to effectuate the segregation of assets and liabilities in connection with numerous industries, including real estate, ship and aircraft ownership, as well as the segregation of new business ventures from established business ventures. Mr. Speaker, I will now go through the clauses of the bill. Part 1, preliminary. This part provides for the short title of the bill. The part also defines key terms used throughout the bill, including account owner, bank, beneficial owner, creditor, general account, general shareholder, incorporated segregated account, incorporated segregated accounts company, segregated accounts company. Additionally, this part provides that the provisions of the Companies Act apply to the provisions of this bill. Mr. Speaker, it is proposed that the bill be further amended to insert definitions for the terms deposit-taking institution and financial holding. Furthermore, since the provisions under the Companies Act will govern segregated and incorporated segregated account companies, the definition for terms beneficial owner, ultimate effective control, and ultimate ownership be amended to have definition assigned in the Companies Act. Mr. Speaker, this Part 2 provides for the application process for registration, the documentation required where a company has conducted business prior to its registration, the right of an account owner or creditor to object to registration and the procedure for same, the grounds upon which the registrar may grant approval for the procedure to be followed by the registrar when the registration is refused, the removal of a segregated account or incorporated segregated account company from the register. Currently, a bank is prohibited from being registered as a segregated account, segregated or incorporated segregated accounts company. It is proposed that this prohibition be extended to deposit-taking institutions and financial holding companies under the Banking Services Act. This is in keeping with the prohibition of the Banking Services Act entities from managing funds on behalf of third parties. Mr. Speaker, Part 3 provides for the management and administration of segregated and incorporated segregated account companies. This part provides for the requirement of a company to, in writing, inform any person with whom it enters a transaction that it is a segregated accounts company or an incorporated segregated account company, and a personal liability of directors where a company contravenes this requirement. It requires the appointment of a person approved by the primary regulator of a company as a representative of the company, the duties of the appointed representative, the penalty for the failure to fulfill the said duties, and the replacement of a representative where he has resigned, his license has been revoked. The structure and content to be contained within the governing instrument of a segregated or incorporated segregated account company. The apportionment of asset and liability among two or more segregated accounts, incorporated accounts, and the general account. It also deals with the creation and issuance of securities in one or more classes by a segregated or incorporated segregated account company, the treatment of dividends and distributions and repurchases and the reduction of capital, the payment of dividends or the making of distributions in respect of securities of any class linked to a segregated account, and the reduction of capital, the circumstances under which segregated accounts or incorporated segregated accounts companies may reduce its share capital, application to court for confirming order where a segregated or incorporated segregated accounts company passes a resolution approving a reduction in share capital, applications to the registrar for such approval, procedure for the registrar to register the order of reduction, the contributory's liability to pay debts of creditors of altered segregated accounts company or incorporated segregated accounts company, the requirement for a company under the bill to maintain records in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles used in preparation of the financial statements of the company in accordance with the relevant sections of the Companies Act. So the records will clearly show the share capital, the proceeds of rights, reserves, issues, securities, assets, liabilities, and dividends which are linked to each account. The requirement for a segregated and incorporated segregated accounts company to file annual returns to the registrar, certifying that the company's operation during the preceding year were compliant with the provisions of the bill and the Companies Act, and creates an offense for the failure to file the return. Mr. Speaker, it is proposed that this requirement be deleted, since companies are already required to file annual returns under the Companies Act. The nature of segregated accounts The rights of creditors in respect of any liability of a segregated accounts company arising from a transaction and the circumstances within which assets may be transferred from the general account to a segregated account. The treatment of liabilities of segregated accounts companies, the order of priority of rights where a segregated account has insufficient assets to pay all its obligations in full. The nature of incorporated accounts and the rights of creditors in respect of any liability linked to an incorporated segregated account and the circumstances within which assets may be transferred from the general account to an incorporated segregated account. The limitation of the power of an incorporated segregated accounts company to enter transactions on behalf of any of its segregated accounts, its segregated accounts company, or the procedure for dispute resolution, the limitation of creditor enforcement rights to assets of segregated accounts and segregated account companies, the limitation of creditor enforcement rights to aspects of incorporated segregated accounts for the incorporated segregated accounts companies, the rights and obligations with respect to segregated accounts and incorporated segregated account companies, the account owner's beneficial interest in segregated accounts and incorporated segregated accounts companies. Mr. Speaker, Part 4, beneficial ownership. It is proposed that the entire Part 4 be deleted since an extensive beneficial ownership regime has been provided under the Companies Amendment Act 2023 and will apply to segregated accounts since they are under the jurisdiction of the Companies Act. Mr. Speaker, Part 5, receivership and winding up. I'm winding up the presentation, hopefully. This part, no, not really. Good, I have a few pages left. This part provides for grounds upon which the court may make a receiving order in respect of one or more segregated or incorporated segregated accounts for the following purposes. A, the orderly management, sale, rehabilitation, or termination of the business or attributable to the I should say segregated account or incorporated segregated account, and the distribution of assets linked to the account to those entitled. The part further provides for the ineffectiveness of a resolution for the winding up of a segregated accounts company or an incorporated segregated accounts company where a receivership order has been granted without leave of the courts. The application of receivership orders and who is permitted to make such application, etc., Mr. Speaker. Part 6, general. This part provides for the following: the general regulations making power of the minister subject to negative resolution, the prohibition on the filing of any suit or action against the registrar or insolvency, supervisor of insolvency, or any person acting on their behalf in respect of anything done in their official capacity in good faith without negligence, the indemnification of the registrar or supervisor of insolvency from being required to prosecute, defend, or take part in any proceedings outside the jurisdiction of the court, and a savings law clause to permit the rules of common law and equity applicable to companies as applicable to segregated account companies and incorporated segregated account companies governed by or formed under this bill. Additionally, the part provides that no transaction or interest in a segregated account or incorporated segregated account will be void by reason only that at the relevant time the segregated accounts or the incorporated segregated accounts company fail to comply with or is in breach of any provision of the bill. The first schedule, Mr. Speaker, specifies applicable penalties for offences under this bill. It is proposed that paragraphs 3 and 4, which provide for the failure to file annual returns or failure to keep a beneficial ownership register, be deleted in light of other amendments proposed. Second schedule, offences in respect of which liability to conviction may be discharged by way of fixed penalty. This schedule specifies the offences in respect of which liability to conviction may be discharged by payment of a fixed penalty. It is proposed that paragraphs 3 and 4, which provide for the failure to file annual returns and the failure to keep beneficial ownership register, be deleted in light of other amendments proposed. The third schedule sets out the applicable fees payable to the registrar for, among other things, application to object to registration of segregated accounts company. I'm just going to, for here on, Mr. Speaker, segregated accounts means segregated accounts company or incorporated segregated accounts company. So this third schedule among other things, sets out how you application to object to registration of segregated accounts, application to register segregated accounts, request to remove a segregated account, filing particular to company representatives. It is proposed that paragraph 10, which provides for the fee to file annual returns, be deleted in light of other amendments proposed. Mr. Speaker, the Memorandum of Objects and Reasons stipulates the key objectives for the bill. In concluding, I now invite members of this Honourable House to support the passage of the Segregated Accounts Companies Bill 2023 and its amendments. Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Speaker, this bill has been long in coming. The GIFSA, the Jamaica Financial, this was something being discussed for quite some time, because in other jurisdictions, Barbados and other jurisdictions, this ease of doing business is available to investors, and it indeed provides an improved environment and creates options in investors as to how best to structure their businesses and to narrow their liabilities to particular areas and to particular portfolio of assets. And it is something that we support fully. I think it will improve the environment for doing business, the ease of doing business, and create in investors, as I've said, the opportunity to focus. And where you have companies, existing companies, rather than separating or winding up different businesses or addressing questions of liabilities, it allows for persons to invest, create the segregated accounts, and where it is a new company is to form an incorporated segregated accounts company to manage their affairs in that way. There was this suggestion and the discussion at one point about what professionals would be allowed to carry out these business under the various pieces of, well, under the segregated accounts, whether it's incorporated or not. There was a suggestion that you'd have to be a trust professional to be able to do that. I think this has been reconsidered, or has it been reconsidered? Is it still limited to the professionals, or who are the persons who can, under this amended bill for legislation, who can conduct business with these accounts? Accepting that these are new areas, but not only that, but they pose risks in terms of the specificity and the particularities of operating these accounts. But I'd be concerned if it is very constrained and not being allowed to have different persons once they're familiar with and can prove their qualification, rather than to be extremely restricted to just one class. My experience with where we create exclusivity is that they drive up cost, and they tend to stall business. The speed at which you're able to carry out business is limited, and therefore I'd be concerned if it is that constrained or restricted. Notwithstanding that we accept that this is not an area for uninitiated, but it does require a level of experience and understanding. But to confine it to particular professionals, I'd be concerned. So that company secretaries, for example, are very familiar with the companies or companies operate and proceeds, I think can participate, and we wouldn't want to so restrict it only to those who have particular kinds of experience, because they tend to be, as I said, exclusive and costly in the operation. So I'd like to the minister to respond, if he might, either in committee or no, to satisfy the concern that we would have. But otherwise, we believe that this is an innovation. This is something long in coming, and we put Jamaica on par with other forward-looking jurisdictions who are seeking to provide the opportunity for business and investors to operate more efficiently.
Mr. Speaker, I heard comments and then one substantive question. There are no restrictions on who can propose to be the owner of a segregated account or segregated account company. Who can form one? Yeah, no restrictions. Mr. Speaker, I ask for second reading of the bill.
The question is that the bill be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Clerk.
Yes. A bill entitled An Act to Provide for the Registration and Regulation of Companies that Operate and Maintain Segregated Accounts and Incorporated Segregated Accounts and for Connected Matters, read a second time.
The House will now resolve itself into a committee of the whole House to consider the bill clause by clause. All right. Ten. I now put clause 1 to 59.
Mr. Chairman, there's an amendment sheet has been tabled, and I ask that the amendments be accepted.
The request is on the floor. Those in favor? Those against? Amendments have been accepted. I now put clauses 1 to 59 and as amended. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. I put the title and enacting clauses. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The first, second, and third schedule has to be put in one. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I do report that the bill has passed committee stage with 10 amendments. Those in favor? The ayes have it. We will now resume to a full sitting of the House. I do report the bill as having passed committee stage with 10 amendments. Those in favor? Those against? Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I ask for third reading of the bill.
You have to stand at this time.
Oh. Mr. Honorable Speaker, sir, I request third reading of the bill.
The question is that the bill be read a third time. Those in favor? Those against?
A bill entitled An Act to Provide for the Registration and Regulation of Companies that Operate and Maintain Segregated Accounts and Incorporated Segregated Accounts and for Connected Matters, read a third time and passed.
Mr. Speaker, is not proposed to do any further business this evening, and I now ask that the House be adjourned to a date to be fixed. Likely. I think, Nigel, you want to meet Tuesday, right? We're meeting Tuesday? To a date to be fixed, if we are going to meet on Tuesday, we'll inform you.
The question is that the House do now adjourn until a date to be fixed. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. This House now stand adjourned.
Let's see some. Ah, there's a green. There's a green too. There's a green too. All right, guys, if you're green, you dance. If you're not green, it's okay. You're going to sing. Me and my friends are going to dance together with you. Now, green people and non-green people, are you ready?
Yes,